Hey souls, welcome back to my channel. Thank you again for coming to join me to watch some of these stories and listen in on some of these intimate thoughts that are going on around the world that people are experiencing every day and may feel absolutely isolated and alone. Hopefully some of these stories will resonate with you, or maybe you know someone that has experienced something like this that's close to you, and hearing these stories can help you better relate to the pain or the joy or whatever it is that they're going through. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it today. It looks like it's about to thunderstorm, and I hope I can make it back into my car before that happens. So today's story has to do with infertility. For any of you that have ever experienced any struggles going through this, or have known somebody near and dear to you that has had to go through this, you may be able to understand this in a different light. Maybe we can educate some of the people in the world that have never been in this position to better understand how somebody in this position would feel, and maybe have a little bit more empathy, or be a little bit more reserved about comments when they really don't know what's happening on the other side. So let's get into this fertility roller coaster. When I was growing up, I never really had some big career dream. I was one of those kids who said, I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a lawyer. If you had asked me what I wanted out of life, I thought my answer was pretty simple. I wanted to get married, start a family, and eventually have a house full of kids. That was my dream. That was my only dream. My husband and I used to joke that we need a minivan because we planned on having so many kids at one point. We were so excited to start trying, and we really didn't care if it was a boy or a girl. We just wanted a healthy baby. So a few months went by and nothing was really happening. At first, none of us were really worried, but everybody told me not to stress about it and that it would just happen when it's supposed to, so to just relax. And I think that's easy advice to give when it's not your body that's malfunctioning. Meanwhile, I felt like every person around me was getting pregnant because we were in our prime age. So our friends around us, the coworkers, and even some of our family members were just popping up pregnant left and right. I felt like every post I saw on social media was just another pregnancy announcement or a gender reveal party invitation. It would bring me joy to see that, and I was really happy for them, but quietly wondering why it wasn't happening for me. After a while, we stopped trying so hard and just tried to focus on enjoying life together. We thought maybe it was a sign, and at least that's what we were telling ourselves to make it feel better. But every month, I still was hoping that I would experience a late period, or maybe some nausea, or maybe just a glimpse of a weird symptom that would feel something like hope. A few years later, we finally decided to cave in and go visit a doctor. They told me that I had a condition that could make getting pregnant naturally very difficult for us. I remember hearing the diagnosis and feeling relieved and devastated at the same time. At least I had an answer now, but now there was a reason as well. The doctor prescribed me medication to help boost the process, and I was really nervous about taking it, but honestly, by that point, I would have probably stood on my head and barked like a dog if somebody would have told me that would have helped me. A couple of months later, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive, and I couldn't believe it. I was finally pregnant after all of this trying. We immediately called my parents because we were so excited. They were crying and celebrating, insisting to come by for some quick congratulation hugs. They had been part of this journey from day one, and they had offered us support so much along the way. It felt like all of those years of waiting had finally paid off, but for some reason, something told me to take another test. I just think I was in shock. Like it just didn't feel real yet, so I just went ahead and bought 2 more. I was patiently waiting and was super excited to see the 2 lines, but they were negative. I remember standing there staring at them thinking, what the hell is happening right now? I had blood work drawn the next day and it confirmed that I was not pregnant. The doctor told me that false positives can happen sometimes. In a few hours, I had everything I ever wanted, and just like that, it disappeared. Fast forward to 6 months later, I got another positive test. But this time I wasn't taking any chances, so I waited for the blood work to confirm before sharing this news to anyone this time. And it was bittersweet. I didn't even want to let myself get too excited either. Everything was going good at my checkups, and we started accepting it, and we're opening ourselves to be excited again because this time we felt like it was finally happening. Then, right before 12 weeks, I noticed some spotting. I called my doctor, and they said it could be normal and that they could see me tomorrow. Maybe it was just fear or intuition of some sort. So, a few hours later, I started cramping, and I asked my husband to take me to the hospital. Sitting in that waiting room felt like an eternity. They finally called us back, and they did an ultrasound. They couldn't tell me anything, but I could see it in her face. She said the doctor would be in shortly. He told me that my hormone levels were dropping and that the pregnancy wasn't really viable at this point, and that there was absolutely nothing that they could do. There wasn't even anything that I could do. I was staring at the wall while he kept talking. I just couldn't even process anything that he said after that moment. I remember being freezing cold in there, and all I could feel were my warm tears falling on my cheeks. Everything else just went silent. It's so crazy how certain things like that just stay with you for some reason. After trying and praying for years and finally getting that thing that you wanted the most, someone is now telling you to go home and basically wait for your baby to die. That's exactly what happened next. I had a miscarriage at home. That physical pain was awful, but the worst was the emptiness that I felt afterwards. It felt like something had been stolen from me, and it was so unfair. I slept for days afterwards, and I cried until I was too tired to even do that anymore. Then I'd wake up and I would cry again. People talk about miscarriage like it's some medical thing, a procedure, a diagnosis, or a statistic, but for me it wasn't any of that. I was losing my baby and all of the future that I had already started imagining. We had already picked a name. Some time passed, I was still trying to heal, and then comes the comments. Don't even get me started on these comments. When are you guys having kids? You know, you're not getting any younger. It will happen when you least expect it. Just stop trying. People have no idea what they're asking when they say those things or what battle somebody might be fighting behind those closed doors. And honestly, it's nobody's business. I always wanted to ask people why they felt entitled to information about my uterus. Why they thought it was an appropriate conversation starter. But most of the time, I just smiled because explaining infertility and miscarriage and grief to strangers was somehow even more exhausting. It took years before I was emotionally ready to try again. I didn't feel like I was done healing, but then I realized I was never really going to be ready if I waited around for that. So we just decided to try one more time. But this time we took a different approach, and we went to see a fertility specialist. I wanted a baby more than anything, but I don't think people realize how hard it is to willingly walk back into something that has already broke your heart once before. I was so scared to try again. Every appointment, every test, the milestones felt like a gamble. Like I could just expect the bad news because it was around the corner and it was coming at any moment. But eventually, it happened, and this time, our baby actually stayed. When I look back, I don't think about how hard motherhood is. I think about how close I came to never even experiencing it at all. Now, I can't imagine my life without that sleep deprivation, constant diaper changes, tantrums, teenage attitudes, expenses, sacrifices, and all of the additional stresses that come with it. Because none of it ever feel like a burden to me. Because there was a time when I would have given anything just for that chance. Every single one of those moments will be a gift to me, and that's a gift that some people never will get. Ask someone, when are you having kids? Maybe just don't, because you have no idea what they're carrying or what they are going through to get there. And for those who have lived through fertility or miscarriage, the losses, I understand you. I know how lonely and unfair that whole thing feels. And I know how much strength it takes to keep hoping when that same hope has already left you heartbroken before. So thank you so much for sending in your story. And just like you said, we hear you. You are not alone. You are heard. And thank you so much for sending in this message, because I think that it happens a lot more than we think. People might experience this quietly, and you may never even know that they went through this. So as painless as that question may seem to you, you might be striking a nerve for somebody else when they're going through the thick of it. So just be mindful of that. I hope that all of you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for sharing this moment with me, and I'm really looking forward to our next story together.